when I was humbled and asked to speak tonight, to tell a story, and heard that the topic was courage, I was reminded of a couple of my favorite quotes about courage. And the first one is from Joan of Arc. And she said, "I'm not afraid. I was born to do this." And there's times when I totally feel that so much. But my favorite quote about courage is from Georgia O'Keeffe. And she said something like, "I've been afraid every moment of my life, but I've never let that stop me." And that I get even more. And I'm reminded of kind of the saying that the only time you can be courageous is when you're afraid. So I want everybody, after your intermission drinks, hopefully you used your second ticket, to close your eyes just for a second and think about the thing or one of the things that most scares you in life. And just hold on to that for a second. And I'm going to share with you a story about a time that I faced one of the things that most scares me. It wasn't a dark and stormy night. It was actually a gorgeous day. And I was home with my son, and my husband was at work. And my son, Sam, you might like to know, is in his 5th year at the Hill Center. He's in 7th grade this year. And as one does of a day, he said, "Mom, where are my lightsabers?" We live in a really small house, and as you who live in small houses know, you use your attic for whatever doesn't fit in your room at that time. So I said, "Well, oh, they're in the attic." And he said, "Will you get them for me?" And I said, "Well, of course I will. How am I gonna, stand in the way of you and your lightsabers?" So I go up into the attic, and I'm kind of looking in between, baby stuff over here and like our inflatable kayak over here and some old maternity clothes over there. And there's kind of this black rope on the ground, on the floor of the attic. And I sense movement. I don't like movement in my attic at any time. Anytime. It's one of those bare bulb, conspiracy theory, like sitting around the table situations in my attic. There's just one bulb hanging. The rest is just pitch dark, even in the middle of the day. There's a bulb kind of swinging. Sure enough, this rope. Snakes, if you will. Let me back up for a second and tell you that I have been officially diagnosed in high school with a phobia of snakes. When I would open a biology textbook and there was a picture of snakes, I would break into a cold sweat. It was seriously not a joke. And I've really worked on it, especially after I had a child, because I didn't want to pass on this irrational fear. And done a little bit of exposure therapy, just really tried to do my best. So I'm standing in the attic. Sure enough, at least 4 feet of black movement. From downstairs, I hear, "Mommy, what's wrong?" I say, "How did you know something's wrong?" He said, "Well, you just screamed for about 10 seconds straight." I had no memory of screaming whatsoever. My heart is in my throat. You know that feeling? My stomach kind of down around here. And I'm thinking, what are the chances that this snake is going to stay in this position for 6 more hours until my husband gets home? right? 2, what are the chances, if it doesn't, that I will ever fall asleep in this home ever again? 3, how possible is it for us to move tonight? These things are going through my head, and I'm watching this thing, and I thump, and I look. There's these long fireplace gloves that have just been thrown up to me from downstairs. Mommy, I figured it was a snake by your response. So you see how poor I've been at hiding this fear. I mean, we lived in Australia, and I tried to, we went camping in the outback. Most dangerous snake in the world, inland taipan. No problem. Obviously, he picked up that there was a problem. So there's these fireplace gloves, and I say, why don't you come on up here? No thanks, Mom. I'll just stay down here. But you know what I will do? I'll go get my Snakes of North Carolina book. And I'll tell you, what the most poisonous, venomous snakes are. As I go, let me remind you, red on black, friend of Jack. Red on yellow, kill a fellow. Thanks, Sam. This is mostly black. He said, well, does it have slit pupils? Well, I can't see its head yet. Well, when you do see its head, look at its fangs and tell me if it has a white mouth, because that means it's a water moccasin. Well, there's no water in the attic, honey. I think it's probably non-venomous. All this to say, I got the snake into one of those, big attic totes that I just completely dumped out all over the place because I was panicking. So the snake goes into this attic tote. And by the way, it's a clear one. And by the time I get it downstairs, my heart is now up here. My stomach is past the floor. And that thing is up in the corner of this tote, which I find untenable. How does that even happen in smooth plastic? I don't know. We take the snake, we release the snake, it's all happy. And I was fairly pleased with my response. Epilogue. My mother-in-law came to visit the next day. We tell her this story of really unparalleled courage, which is pretty much why I'm telling it to you tonight. And she says, oh, Jen, JJ, my friends call me Jen. My mother-in-law calls me Jen. That is wonderful. I know how far you've come. I'm really proud of you, just genuinely saying this. And then she says, was it a male or a female snake? Because we had figured out it was a rat snake. I said, I'm not sure that I know that information. She said, and then I said, well, why would you ask me that question? She said, just because females can lay 20 to 25 eggs. And it's that time of year. And I said, why would you tell me that information? Why? Why on God's green earth, woman? And she said, well, they are very beautiful eggs. I hear you laughing who know my mother-in-law. Anyway, I tell you this story because I think about our kids, like my Sam, and our other kids who have anxiety. And I think about you who thought about what gives you fear. And for some of our kids, going to school every day means knowing that they have to climb into that attic and find a snake there. And they don't know what snake it's going to be. And they don't know how they're going to be able to catch it. And they know that a lot of people don't understand that they're really, really scared of snakes. And people say, that's no big deal. What's the big deal? And then I asked Sam, when I was thinking of this story, how would you then add a learning difference on top of thinking about that anxiety, whether that's school anxiety? For some kids, it's going home. That's so hard and so scary. And he said, well, maybe you have really poor eyesight and you forgot your glasses or you lost your contacts. And now you have to catch that snake with blurry vision. Or maybe there's not a light in the attic and all you have is a little headlamp or a flashlight with one hand. Maybe that's what it's like. So I tell that story and I think about the Hill Center and I think about Sam, who's been here this is his 5th year. And his first year, I needed to stay on site here in the commons area where we're having our glasses of wine, hopefully, or beers. He couldn't have me leave, and some days, first period was just us sitting, him crying in the lobby. And the next year was a little better. 2 steps forward, sometimes 3 steps back, 4 steps forward, whatever. But the Hill Center hung tough, and we didn't have to fight. That was the difference. They were on our team the whole time. And in his 3rd year, and I only say this to brag, there's no other reason, Sam was selected by his teachers as the Hill Hero that year of the elementary school. Oh, thank you. I'll take that for Sam. And this year, he's turning 13, and as part of his 13th birthday, he's changing his middle name to Courage. And so my wish for you, and my point of this story, is to think about our kids and to be kind and gentle with ourselves. And I wish that your attic doesn't have snakes. And if it does have a snake, I wish your attic only has a male snake. And if your attic doesn't have a male snake, I wish your female snake doesn't lay eggs. But if she does, I hope you can see the beauty in them.
J.J. Johnson!